So present now, I should click present now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. So you are most welcome in the second session of today's workshop. The topic of this session is ethics in academic research. And as a resource person, we are privileged to have Dr. Brajesh Kumar, Head and Dean, Department of Commerce and Business Studies, Central University of South Bihar, Gaya. With a teaching experience of more than 15 years, he has successfully guided 2 MPhil, 9 PhD, and 30 master dissertations. And adding to his achievement, he has also published 3 books and more than 60 research papers in reputed journals. He has also contributed to major projects in ICSSR New Delhi in 2019. And his area of interest lies in business economics, finance, welfare, and developmental economics. So I welcome you, sir, on today's session and request you to take over and lead the session.
Okay, thank you very much. So the screen needs to be shared. So is it visible there?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
I have only 2 options, present now and turn off captions. Okay.
Yes, sir. So now click on the present now.
Oh, present now I should click.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Then window.
There will be 3 options, sir.
Entire screen, a window and Chrome tab.
Yes, sir. You can choose the window.
Window, yes. So now it is okay. So now share. Option is yes. Now I think. Now is it visible?
Not yet, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. So this is the topic on which I am going to deliver my lecture today, and I hope in previous days you might have heard a lot of deliberations that might have extended the theme that I have introduced, and that is about the whole research methodology. And during the last few days you might have heard number of quality presentation, and that has might have cleared your ideas or clear your doubts regarding the true meaning and objectives of research methodology and how important it is to be well equipped in this area in the present time when you have any serious academic ambition or academic objectives. So this is the ethics in academic writing. Here academic word is there, but it will include your research and research publications as well as monographs, etc., books, whatever. So it is a very comprehensive term. So term is very judiciously selected. If it is research publication only, then, but here books and other popular articles, everything is included here. So it is a very good topic selected by the organizers. So I'm going to discuss some basic ideas, and it is a challenging and difficult topic also, because whenever you use ethics, so this ethics is a very still a controversial topic, and there is no final answer actually what ethics is all about and how and when, because so why such things are there I will discuss during my presentation. So very interesting but challenging topic. So we will try to learn what is the issue of ethics and how it is related with our academic writing in present time. So I have focused here the core idea behind considerations of ethical issues in academic writing. Legality and many other things have a lot of literature available. You can consult like plagiarism, etc. So the topic already introduced by the when I was introduced to you. So first thing I want to discuss with you is what is ethical consideration. So because if we are talking about ethics in academic writing, unless we are very clear about the ethics itself, there is no meaning of, and you will not appreciate and you will not test the real challenge of such consideration in your academic writing in coming days, when you will engage yourself, more involvement will be there from your side when you will start writing academic articles and research papers and books, etc., etc. So actually ethics is our state of mental and emotional composition. Ethics is actually mental and emotional composition of our consciousness. We all are conscious. So this composition of consciousness is the ethics that actually defines our choices and decisions as desirable or undesirable. This is the core idea behind ethics. So whatever ethical dimension you are analyzing or you are considering, you should think that whenever someone is talking about ethics or ethical situation, they are actually talking about desirability or undesirability of a particular choice or decision or action. Is that clear? So this is the thing. So ethics is nothing but our consideration, conscious consideration about our choices and decisions as desirable or not desirable or undesirable. This is the thing. So as you all know, everybody has its own state of consciousness, and therefore we have a large number of definitions in a space-time matrix as there are number of conscious people. So this is very simple thing, that if desirability and undesirability is the definition of ethics, then we have huge number of definitions, because each person has their own consciousness, and according to that everybody decide desirable or undesirability of something. So we will have an infinite set of criteria or decisions that may be desirable or undesirable. But in such situation, how you will decide or accept that in a given situation, which is so so everybody is affected, their consciousness is determined by a particular space, means particular region, time and situation. So our consciousness changed over this matrix. Means if these things changes, our outlook towards desirability and undesirability of something changes. Then we have infinite set of choices and infinite definitions of desirability and undesirability. And in such a flux, it is very difficult that we come to any conclusion that something is desirable or not. There will be conflicts only, and there will be no consensus over such issue. So question that I have raised here, very basic question, that if anything which has numerous definitions and which changes, which is in flux. Flux means which is consistently changing over that period of time or a space or situation or conditions. So if anything is so flux, anything which is in flux, can we take it as a guiding post? Because desirability and undesirability is the guiding post to make a decision that whether my choice is correct or not correct, ethical or not ethical. So this is the challenge which cannot be solved if we have a changing guiding post. Suppose I have a guiding post somewhere that you move that way. Suddenly that direction is changed somewhere else. Next moment I move there, that direction is again changed. If guiding post is changing, then how it will guide us? It cannot guide anyone. So we have to, this is the problem of ethics, that if we take all people's consciousness, desirability and undesirability as our guiding post, then every time it will change, every person to person it will change, situation to situation it will change, and time to time it will change, then it has no value. No one will and can follow the direction. So this is the basic challenge of ethical consideration. Therefore, we have to use a finite set of definitions in place of infinite bounded set of definitions of desirability and desirability. Because above I have already explained that if we have anything which is bounded by time, space and situation or person, then it will keep changing. And anything that is in flux will not guide us, not able to guide us as guiding post. So we have to come to some limited definition and pointed consideration that will guide us, and it should be objective in nature, and it should be independent of individual biases. Then we can say, yes, this is my guidepost. And those decisions or those criteria may be the criteria of deciding desirability or undesirability of something. And once you have a concrete and a stable kind of guidepost, a stable kind of criteria that help you to determine whether something is desirable or undesirable, in that case, if you have such guidepost, if you have some such criteria, then you can say, yes, this is our ethical considerations that on which we can rely upon. And if it is there, in the light of that only, you can say, yes, something is ethical or unethical. So that clarity is very much important in my view. That's why I have written that it is actually ethical consideration is such a topic which is actually unresolved. It is unresolved, an unresolved debate. However, to find out the finite set of definitions, two approaches has been developed. Over the time, this debate is thousands of years. This topic is in debate. Over the time, some consciousness, some consensus has developed over the time. Some approaches has been accepted, and on the basis of that, some criteria have been developed. That's why we are in a position to talk about ethical considerations in a given situation or decision-making situation. So these are actually, number one is two approaches are there. One approach emphasizes that see the things as its final consequence, means which is desirable or undesirable, desirable in the domain of ultimate consequence of our action. So when we see that what would be the ultimate consequences of my decision or choice or action on self or to others, that is one of the criteria or approach. This is one of the criteria to decide which is desirable or undesirable. Means if some choice or if some decision or some action at the end as a consequence of such actions or decisions or choices result into undesirable situation, means you know that this is undesirable, and if you know that consequence of such action is undesirable at the end, then you will say that no, it should be accepted or unaccepted based on this consideration, that what would be the ultimate outcome of my choice or my action. Then it is one of the approach to decide about desirability or undesirability. That is ethics in my view. That is the ethics. Second one, which is desirable or undesirable both in domain of the ultimate consequence of our action and the domain of consequences of the use of means along with its ultimate consequences. And where, what does it mean? Means it is telling that another approach to look at the problem of ethical consideration is you have to see not only the final outcome or consequence of your action or choice, rather you have to take the externalities of your ways or path or even your means to reach to the goal. Suppose goal is desirable, then according to the first condition approach, you can, yes, it is desirable or undesirable on the basis of its outcome. But another consideration is, which is in one sense is Gandhian approach, that not only the goal, sanctity of the goal is important, rather means to reach to that goal should also be so. Means it should also be desirable, acceptable, or useful. So means and goal both should be, both sanctity is important, is the another approach. So this is the unresolved debate going on, that only means is important. Some tells means, if means is correct, outcome will also be correct or desirable. If means is undesirable, outcome will also be undesirable. But it is one school of thought is this. Another tells that if means is okay, you can be sure enough about that. Another tells if goal is okay, that is our traditional cultural value system in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Also, you might have seen many a times that if goal is correct, means can be different also. It appears undesirable, but due to its ultimate consequence as good one, so it is accepted. This debate is very, very old, not yet resolved, but two approaches are there. So I call the first one as path irrelevancy and second one as path relevancy approach respectively, because one see the path is not important, the goal is important. Another tells that no, path as well as goal, both are important. So philosophers are at a loggerhead, you all know, they do not agree with any one of that, and everybody has an option to plunge into that. In this debate, still this debate is going on, and we all can plunge into it, no problem. But crux of the problem is who will decide the desirability or undesirability of either of the goals or the means. It is okay, two approaches are there. You see the goal, you see the means, and third one maybe you see both goal and means both together. That is one thing. But crux of the problem is not that goal is important or means is important. Ethical consideration, crux of the problem is beyond it. That is ignored by many of the discussion nowadays in good quality books I have seen. They ignored it. They either involved in the approach domain or they are just jump onto the criteria. Problem is not the approach. Goal is important or means, you can decide. If goal is important, that will help you, no problem. If means is important, that will also help you, no problem. Or if means and goal both has to be taken care of, then we have to consider what we are talking about. We are path or goal debate depends on desirability or undesirability. But who will decide the desirability and undesirability first? That is the crux of the problem of ethical consideration. So I have written crux of the problem is who will decide the desirability or undesirability of either of the goals or the means. Unfortunately, there is no final resolve on this debate. This is the present status of ethical debate. No, it has not been resolved who will decide desirability or undesirability. So none has decided, but many of them has given so far after long history of debate and then lengthy debate traditions. If you follow and you go through the historical debate and present debate among the philosophers, some 2-3 criteria have been developed where all the modern philosophers of welfare and many ethical issues, including Amartya Sen, you might be knowing his name, is Indian economist, they have actually carried this debate further, and more scientific and logical and reasoning based analysis is going on, and all have offered some criteria. So these 3 criteria, there are 5 criteria on which things are debate is going on. So out of that, 3 important one I have selected, because in this context on which the audience I am addressing to, or the subject we all belongs to, these 3 criteria will have sufficient coverage of ethical considerations. So these 2 criteria. So there is no resolve over the debate, but over the debate, based on long history of debate, 3 criteria are very important, which has been evolved over the time, and more or less there is a consensus among the philosophers and logician about these three criteria of ethical consideration. What is that? One is humanity, or a better term, modern name is utilitarian criteria, very old one. Modern one, justice criteria, and also not so modern, but you can say in America or in France, French Revolution and American Revolution, rights have been one of the major criteria evolved during that debate. And on these three criteria, most of the philosophers are actually have some consensus, working consensus, that yes, these criteria we can use whenever we face any ethical situation in our life. So it can be equally applicable in our field of academic writing also. So I have taken this one. So utilitarian criteria tells that anything that leads to human welfare as a goal or as a means, human rights and human obligations, if these things are there involved in our consideration, situation involved, and in anything as a means or as a goal, if it is contributing to human welfare, it protects human rights, and it ensure human obligations, enforce human obligations, these decisions are desirable, and anything going against it may be undesirable. This is the consensus, general working consensus. Another is equality criteria, that is justice. Justice means the equal valuation of every act or decision and their consequences for everyone. Means if any decision is taken, any choice has been made, or any act has been implemented, and consequences of or outcome of these actions are desirable, then it should be desirable for all. If it is undesirable, it is undesirable for all. Justice demands equality of a person before the law. Means any act, if society by any way think that it is not good for me, then it should not be accepted good for others. For example, if noise pollution or noise is disturbing to me, it is equally disturbing to others also. If I'm insulted, if someone insult me and I feel bad, insult is bad for others also. So this kind of equality should be maintained. This is called justice. If you say it is good, it is desirable, it should be desirable, it should be accepted as desirable by all. If we accept that it is undesirable situation or action or choice, it should be undesirable for others also. This is called criteria of justice or equality criteria. And the third one is rights. Natural, we all born with, this is accepted notion now, that we all born with some inborn entitlement. Inborn, we have some rights, we born with some such rights, and unless everybody has this natural rights with them, there will be no civilized way of living is possible. What are those? We have a rights of life, property, freedom to make choices till others' rights are not violated. This is called the entitlement criteria, that tells that these three criteria actually we have to decide in a situation. When we face ethical situation, we can decide that if it is justice, it pass justice criteria, it pass utilitarian criteria, or it pass rights criteria. Yes, you can decide whether what is desirable and what is not desirable. So it is a guiding post for us. Yes, debate is not resolved yet, but some general working consensus has been evolved, and that we can take care of till more refined criteria, more agreeable criteria over the time when it will come in developed, we will all be accepting. So far we all can go by these three basic criteria. Now I am applying this knowledge to ethics in academic writing. The question is the why part of the question. First question I put here, why should we be concerned at all about ethics in academic writing? Why? First question, very natural question. You all might be have faced such a question in your mind, or you might have raised such question in your own way, that why there should be any concern at all about ethics in academic writing, because this is the fundamental question. If this question is answered, then we can move forward. If something is not required, why we should concern about that? So I have to establish first why there should be ethical consideration first. Isn't that? So this is the basic question. And the reason to me, according to my perception, the reason is that, as we all know, that progress of human civilization is the story of scientific achievements and smart innovations, which is solely based on research outcome of great minds and researchers of the world. No one has any objection. I don't think anyone have any objection to this understanding or fact. It is a crude fact. If you go through the history of human civilization and the history of economy, history of science, and history of scientific inventions, it is a common conclusion that progress of human civilization is the story of scientific achievements and smart innovations, which is solely based on research outcomes of great minds and researchers of the world. Isn't that? We all should accept this. This is the, yes, during the way out of this knowledge and achievements, definitely some dangerous things have also been, many bad things have also been created. But that is the creation by our choice. It is the human being that has made such choices. That is the ethical question. Why they have made such choices? Because good things, knowledge was pure things, but knowledge, the way knowledge was used, the way knowledge is being applied, that is a debatable issue. For example, the nuclear energy concept developed by Einstein was a good thing for our power, means energy. So our energy requirement can be fulfilled by this one, but it has some negative consequences. But we have utilized it for manufacturing atom bombs. That is our choice. So it is not the fault of the knowledge. It is the fault of our mind and our choices. Why we are so greedy, why we are so dominating towards others. That's why it has created a problem. But it is a different line of debate. I am not going into that. But everybody will accept this fact that the whole civilization, history of progress of civilization is the progress of our knowledge. There is no doubt about it. Then, if it is true, question is, why such great minds and the researchers of past and present, what is their motivation? Why they do so? You are also a researcher, you are also academicians, we are also academicians. Every has their some motivation. We love knowledge, we love to learn knowledge, we love to develop knowledge, produce knowledge, reproduce knowledge, discuss knowledge, or to propagate knowledge. We all are interested in. But what is the motivation? There are some motives. Without motives or without motivation, no one of us work anything. Everybody has some inner drive, that is called motivation. So what were their motivation for all these? The major ones are Intellectual satisfaction, you all know. Name and fame, you all know. Monetary benefits, definitely there. And human empathy. Empathy towards humanity. So these are the major motivating factors that has actually prompted them to lead, to learn, to investigate, to research, and devote whole life to find out, to acquire new knowledges, innovate new ways. And in that way, you all develop, and our present life is so comfortable and so rich and supported by so many inventions and innovations. That was their motivation. Now, if you accept these 2 points, I don't think you will have any problem to accept that if these motivations are crushed by any of our actions in our individual capacity or jointly at societal level, we will lose path-setting researches, innovations, and publications, and will cause infringements to the wider assimilation and practice of knowledge by the people and the society for their own growth and development. Means, if such motivations are not there, crushed by our action, there will be no innovation, there will be no researches, there will be no new knowledge, which we all use and we will be able to use or we want to use to make our own growth and development. So this opportunity, this option will all be vanished. So there will be infringement to the development, future development and growth of the humanity. It will be at risk if we crush such motivation. So that is a very major issue. We should protect such motivation. We should not crush such motivation. And for that, why I am telling so? Why I am telling so? Because if such things happens, it will be disastrous for the progress and well-being of the entire human civilization. Why? Because damaging and it will be the outcome. This will be the loss to the civilization. Therefore, damaging academic motivation is a clear violation of utilitarian criteria of ethical consideration. Our first consideration was utilitarian criteria, that anything which is that affects well-being of the masses, well-being of the people, well-being of us, should be taken as one of the criteria for deciding the ethical consideration situation. So if this motivation is killed or destroyed, there will be impact on our further development and growth of the civilization and our economic and other riches. So our future progress and growth and well-being is affected by such crushing out of such motivation. So it will affect our well-being at the end. Because it is affecting our utilitarian criteria, so on the basis of utilitarian criteria, we can say that we should not crush academic motivations, academic productivity, motivation for academic productivity, we should not crush. Similarly, property right is a fundamental right. That is the second criteria, third criteria. And using others' property without permission or compensation is a clear violation of rights criteria of ethical consideration. If I am using your property without your permission and without compensating it for you, then it is a violation of that fundamental human rights, that is the right to have property. Because property and wealth we have, on which if it is in my it is my own creation, it is my wealth, my property, the right to use it the way we like is lies to me, not others. And if someone, for example, someone has built up a house and someone without permission or information entered into that house and start living, then you are utilizing that property without the permission and information of the owner of that property, then it is a kind of stealing. It is a theft. And it will kill the motivation of the person to build house, to work hard, to save money and sacrifice to build a house, because that person might have either to live or to give it on the rent and earn. So that motivation will be killed. Similarly, our intellectual properties are also there. That is our domain of discussion today. That is also the property of someone. If we are using it without giving, without the permission or compensation, it is a violation of human rights. That is the property rights. That is a fundamental right. And equally important to note that we all have underlying current of motivation to get credit of our achievements. We all want credit for our achievements. We all want compensation for our property, and we all want acknowledgement of our good deeds. It is a very common sense based, we all have felt it and we all agree upon and we all feel like that. And if you put yourself in this situation, it is very clear to everybody that it is true. It is the truth that we all carry. Therefore, ignoring this for others, we know, interesting thing, we all know about our rights, our aspirations, our motivation, our property, our rights, so on and so forth. But we sometimes ignore others for this on the same ground. That is the violation of criteria, justice criteria. Saying we define the same situation for self in a different way and for others in a different way. That is injustice. Justice criteria demands that every situation should be valued equally. That is the thing. So we all know, we all want credit for our achievement. We all want compensation for our property. We all want acknowledgement of our good deeds. Therefore, ignoring this for others is the violation of the justice criteria of ethical consideration. I think you all agree with that. That is the situation. And here now I have reached up to a point where I have established you, I have given you the idea that what is ethics, what is ethical situation, what are the three major criteria have been evolved over the time to decide ethical considerations. And I have given you that I have given you why it is so important. So I have given you in the previous slide that civilization, progress and future depends on good quality researches and assimilation of knowledge. So, but this is such kind of creation is done by those researchers and intellectuals, but there are some motivation, underlying human motivation behind it. So if that motivation is crushed, there will be a crisis. So it is the violation of utilitarian criteria. Similarly, if others' property, intellectual or whatever, if we are not acknowledging or considering or acknowledging such without permission, we are using it or not acknowledging, it will demotivate. So it is the violation of property right as well as utilitarian criteria. At the same time, if we all are happy about in getting credit for our deeds and our good deeds and acknowledgement and property compensation, so it should be equally applicable to intellectual property also. It is the violation of justice also. In such a situation, we have to come out of this. So what to do? Now I am relating it with academic writing. So I am going to give you some situation which is purely ethical situation, and how you will decide that whether your act or choice is good, desirable, undesirable, you will be able to decide it, because I am giving some situation and I am using these three criteria to explain the situation. So you will be very easily knowing, yes, if this situation comes, how we should decide, how we should make a choice which is desirable and avoid which is undesirable. Why something is desirable and why something is undesirable, three criteria we have. So first situation is, if we use intellectual property of others without proper acknowledgement of it, it is the case of stealing of others' property, violation of rights. Very clear. Suppose someone has written a book and para after para I have used it in my book without acknowledging that this part has been adopted from some other source written by someone else. If I'm not acknowledging it, not referring it, means I have not taken permission and I have not given acknowledgement either. So it is a simple case of stealing. Plagiarism, plagiarism is nothing but this. Why plagiarism is nowadays everybody is requested, don't indulge in such actions will be taken. This is the situation, and it is a violation of which criteria of ethical consideration? Violation of rights, because I'm using others' intellectual property without the proper acknowledgement or permission. Second one, demotivation for the holder of the original intellectual property. It is a violation of utilitarian. If you plagiarize extensively, it is the violation of rights, that is the property right. Second thing, it is the violation of utilitarian criteria also, because if someone has developed after so much of hard work some knowledge and he is not getting any credit of that, he is not getting any prize of that, any compensation for that, or at least name and fame for that, or acknowledgement or recognition for that, that person will be demotivated unless excessively motivated to do so. So such common persons, researchers and scholars, intellectuals will be demotivated because there is no acknowledgement of their creation, of which is created out of sheer hard work, sacrifices, whole life is devoted. Then some questions are answered, some new innovations are identified. So no compensation and no acknowledgement. So it is the violation of utilitarian. He will be motivated or she will be motivated, and next time we will lose such motivated researchers. This is the second criteria. And this is misappropriation of others' credit in favor of self. You are using it in your article, your research paper, your book, or your monograph. Not acknowledging others means you have misappropriated others' credit. Credit had to be given to that, acknowledged to that, but you are using that credit in your favor because you will be given credit of that paper or book or passage, and you will be given name and fame for that. So you are earning that credit which is not yours. So you are also misappropriating others' credit in favor of self. So it is a violation of justice, because if someone else will do same with our property, same with our name and fame, we all will be in trouble. We all will feel it. We all will get hurt out of this situation. If I can feel hurt about this, others will also feel the same. So it is a violation. So all the three criteria is violated if you are using others' intellectual property without having proper acknowledgement and permission and compensation. That's all. Clear? Second situation I am giving you. If we write or publish without having a genuine question or a target audience, but for a narrow objective of inflating our own academic value only, it is the case of overpricing of our product and deceiving the stakeholders, and therefore violation of the human or consumers' rights criteria. Simple thing. Suppose I have a article, I'm publishing extensively, and I have no genuine and original and novel questions with me, and I'm not addressing any audience need, or we are not targeting an audience. We are just publishing either for self-satisfaction, then it is okay. Benefit of doubt can be given, but there is no goal and there is no genuine question. You are researching and publishing with sheer simple goal of inflating your biodata. Your resume is being enriched so that you can achieve something. There is no great legal mistake here. Legally, you are very much correct, but ethically, we are not correct. Why? Because there is no genuine question, so it is not going to help humanity in any way. And if there is no audience which needs to be, which needs will be served by your publication, there is no question of utility. So utilitarian criteria is also violated. But problem is your objective is to inflate your own resume, and there is no other service to the humanity and the common person or the other scholars. It is a kind of, means you are pricing a product which doesn't worth that. You are getting benefit of that, but you are not giving service according to that benefit. So you will get promotion, you will get extra earning, but others will not get anything. So it is a kind of overpricing a product, means price is not matching with utility. See our case. So it is also a violation. This situation is also a violation of consumers' rights, means violation of rights. Third situation I am talking about, if we selectively avail the knowledge to the needy or knowledge seekers and restrict access to them by means of price discrimination, it is the case of violation of basic human and consumer rights. It is a rampant practice you see nowadays in the name of publication cost, this cost, that cost, and so many ways. This is more rampant in other countries, developed part of the country. It is not available at reasonable cost. Journals, books are not available at reasonable cost. It is highly costlier. Why? Because they develop knowledge and they say, because we have developed it, so we have the right to earn out of it, no problem. That is okay. That is the acceptance of criteria number one, that is utilitarian criteria. Okay, no problem. Motivation is there. But motivation should be not so high that you are just ignoring the basic right of every scholar and knowledge seeker of the introduction about the new knowledge being created here and there. You take proper compensation. But because you have the monopoly, because you have the purchasing power in your country, you are just ignoring others' needs and other part of the world, scholars, and you are pricing your product so high. It is also unethical thing. So knowledge should be compensated, no doubt, but knowledge should be freer also. There should be no restriction. If you are deliberately selective in that way, you are actually violating criteria of justice and criteria of rights. We also take care of that. But another situation, if we give credit to other person as one of the writer of an academic work without any substantial contribution from that person, it is the case of violation of criteria of justice, because you are depriving one person with an opportunity while giving undue favor to someone else for no fault. Means, suppose you are writing a book or an article and a research paper, and you have accommodated a person, whoever it may be, your friends, your co-authors, your maybe teachers, maybe friends, other friends, just to oblige them for whatever the reason, and you are publishing, and that fellow is getting credit of that, then it is a violation of justice, because you are misappropriating credit to others. But it is not the case of misappropriation, it is a case of favoring someone. But if you are so liberal, why not you can choose some other person who is more needy in that sense and use his or her name as a co-author and share the benefits? No, here you will be biased. Here you do it for two reasons, either to oblige someone, or you are just compensating obligations created by the favor someone might have given you in some time before. So whatever the reason, this is not legality cannot be established here, but ethical way it is wrong. Why? It is the violation of justice. You are depriving other and favoring someone else is not a justified action. So such situation we can see that credit should be given what those who deserve for that, who is genuinely owner of that credit. If we follow this criteria, we are ethical in our academic writing, publication, etc. It may hurt someone's feeling if you use this criteria fully, but fact is this, whether someone will practice it or not, it is a different thing. Legal point of view, no one can establish. If I gave someone names, it will be established that someone else is also party of this publication. But you know the fact. So this is violation of human rights to me. So these three four situation I have established. And also you are also promoting a person of camouflaged academic work, therefore violation of consumer rights. Matlab, you are promoting a person and you are promoting a person as high net worth of knowledge value, but he is not of that level. And if you are promoting someone, means you are bringing a product in the market which is of no quality, of no high quality, but you are propagating it as a high quality, means you are just camouflaging the reality and you are just cheating the consumer of that product, means academic world. So it is a violation of consumer rights also. So justice and the rights criteria both are violated. So I think so far I am able to explain the situation of ethical consideration in academic writing and how you can resolve. So I have given these four are only examples. There are many more examples. But if you command these four examples, you can use the same criteria to decide if you face any situation in the future regarding ethical consideration in your academic writing, you will use these criteria. And for that matter, I have noted down some very fundamental ethical issues in academic writing. Etiquette, you all know, that is not very important. You can ignore it. That is not so. I have collected because different sources, these are famous ethical issues reported, debated. So I have written it. You know the things. So most important thing is that these are the different criteria that you can use, but these are etiquettes, fraudulent publication. So I have not highlighted. These are very well-known situations. So you can find out the meaning. You might have been knowing it also. So some basic etiquettes we have to follow that I have discussed before also. What is the meaning of etiquette? I suppose you all may be knowing. Etiquette means a kind of rules of polite and correct behavior. Polite and correct behavior, or you can say a shistachar kind of things. So etiquette is actually the rules of polite and correct behavior. Means we follow some rules that in our academic life we should be polite. We should make some rules for ourselves. We should from others. We should polite if we our limitation and mistakes are highlighted. We should be politely accepted, and we should politely mention others' lacuna and mistake. So these are some, and cooperating with each other, love to share the knowledge what you know, and always ready to learn from others and help any person who is in need of knowledge, seeking knowledge, trying to get help from you on some academic issues or understanding. If someone is able to help, one should definitely help. If someone wants to learn how to write, you have to guide them. If someone wants to take opinion over his intellectual creation, you should help that. You should not say that I have advised you. So yes, you will be acknowledged for your advisory, but you cannot misutilize your power to analyze a situation or to help or to show some technique of analysis. You should help, and you should be acknowledged also by that fellow, but you should not claim that my name should be there for some advantageous person. So these are so many, it is endless debate. So, but meaning is this: some basic rules of politeness and correctness in our academic engagement should be maintained. That is the way. We should always be ready to learn. I think these are the basic etiquettes: ready to learn from anyone, ready to help anyone seeking knowledge, help others in academic excellence, and take advices and give advices whenever some issues are. Make debate and heated debate even, but with full politeness. Purpose should be knowledge, not to win the debate. Debate problem nowadays is we are debating to win or establish our viewpoint. That should not be the objective. Objective is debate should be done, organized just to refine the knowledge and promote the knowledge. That is the thing. Is that clear? Fraudulent publication, you know, all kind of fraudulent publication. Someone else material is published by someone else without any name and making profit out of this, making money out of this. These are called fraudulent publication without any factual facts, because without any supporting evidences, any opinion is expressed. These are the things nowadays seen. That is fraudulent publication. Plagiarism, you all know, copying others without referring or acknowledging is plagiarism in general. But plagiarism is a detailed subject in itself. There should be a complete lecture over that. Plagiarism is a very deep-rooted thing. Many dimensions and extensive dimensions are involved here. Plagiarism doesn't mean you are not referring someone else's name. Someone else for their contribution. Means I have used someone else resources, publication, and used their para, their statement, their data, their table, and not acknowledging. This is one dimension of plagiarism. If you are using your own source, you have published a paper and 30%, 40% of para you have adopted from that publication and use it in a different way, and you published another paper and not acknowledging that what are the source of this. Yes, it is yours, but you have to acknowledge that I have adopted these part from my previous publication in this journal or in this book. That is another dimension. Third dimension is plagiarism, that you have used someone else para, you have changed some, but words are used similarly. That is also plagiarism. And if you are using others' para and converting it in your own perception, in your own style of writing, you have converted it, no problem. Still it is plagiarism because you have not acknowledged that I have taken idea from that passage. So nowadays, people are expecting that whatever you do, whatever is genuinely done by you, you highlight it, and whatever is being contribution by others directly or indirectly, you should also acknowledge it. So these are the some measure. It is a big issue, big debate, and big topic. So that is plagiarism. Duplicate publication. Whole publication, author's name you remove and put your name. That is one of the duplicate publication. Rarely anyone do like that, but such things has also been happened. Someone very old book, not electronic source is not available. So old book in library, no one is now knowing it or aware of it, and you have utilized, and on the basis of that you have developed a new manuscript and published it. Till it is recognized by someone else that it is the copy of that. But it is very difficult if electronic resources are not available to verify it. Many people can have done, that's why it is in debate. So such duplications are also done. So that is a wrong thing. and conflict of interest, that if suppose you are the research editorial board of some journal and you are also publishing in that, it is a conflict of interest, not legally prohibited, but this should be highlighted. And sometimes it is not recognized by good institutions. Or if your friend or your teacher is editor in your editor board and you are publishing there, your teacher or your friend or your relative should not be that in editorial board or in practice, should be during that period. So many issues are there where conflict of interest are there. It should be avoided. And if unavoidable, suppose my teacher or my supervisor is a top scholar and is chief editor of a very renowned journal, and I cannot ignore that journal just for my supervisor is the chief editor. Only thing that he cannot be the reviewer. There should be blind review. It is always happened. But such thing should be noted down your publication, that care has been taken that there should be no conflict of interest. So though he is my scholar or my student once in past, but that is acknowledged and has been taken care of. So such things, these are called conflict of interest. These are the major issues. So these are the things and criteria you can use for your academic writing. Ethical issue you face, I have given you such criteria, you can use it. And why I have taught you so much so far, because when we are in a situation of ethical consideration, there should be some criteria to decide desirability or undesirability of something. That's why I'm helping you. This is the purpose of this presentation. So I think most of the situation, definition, criteria, and examples I have given, and that is helpful for you for deciding if you are facing any ethical situation in your life regarding the academic writing. But now I'm going to show you some interesting facts. It is adopted from one of the paper published in one of the it was presented in one of the seminar and published in a book, edited book. However, I am adopting, that's why I am acknowledging this, that I have adopted this from my research paper. Not so far whatever I discussed is the new write-up for this workshop. But next, what I'm going to share you some interesting things. I hope you all will enjoy. It is based on my previous publication. Just you see some situation. What happened nowadays? What are the bad practices I have seen and experienced that I have actually commented upon? So I will highlight all these situations. So title I have given you is, this is the reality of our academic world, and we all should accept, we should laugh on ourselves also. We criticize other professions, we should also accept, and we should also enjoy such criticism. So on the basis of various criticism, I have developed some interesting facts, that some surprising academic talent that I have seen in my career, and I have feeling for that, and I have expressed my feeling in this way. So some of the talent I'm going to share with you. Nowadays in the world of academics, people are doing and we are facing, you also might have seen, so it may be very common thing. So the talent octopus, the first talent that I have seen in the world of academics nowadays, that has on which I laughed and I have felt pain also, is the talent octopus. Talent octopus is such an habit of the great scholars, where they show their talent as octopus. Means they are expert and they can produce research papers and present in seminar just for, nowadays seminar value has been reduced, points have been reduced, but when there was 10 and 15 points available, people are desperate to go and present paper, whether seminar is on sociology, history, all science, philosophy, business and commerce, life sciences, physical sciences. Some way or other they can connect some idea and they will present one paper. Means seminar, if there is seminar, this octopus talent emerged in ourselves, and we become expert in sociology, we become history, and everywhere, wherever there is a scope, we try to publish. This is called, and after everything, he is also thinking, is there any other, means if some other subject left, if you put it there, they will publish there also, present paper there also. Another situation is called, I call it the talent Ras Leela. You all might have been knowing this story, mythological story, you all know that in Vrindavan, once Krishna was in Ras, and every gopikas were feeling that Krishna is dancing with her only. So everyone, Krishna is dancing and he is present there at one place, but this is his Maya, that every gopika, this is well known story, that feeling that yes, I am there. Every gopika feeling that Krishna is dancing with her. Means the same Krishna available with every other gopika. Similar kind of talent I have seen people, those who will present paper Assam, if seminar is in Assam, their paper is there. If it is in Tripura, there. Mizoram, there. Kolkata, there. Patna, there. Delhi, there. Jaipur, there. Same person paper is being presented everywhere, because they direct their army, their boys like lieutenants and general lieutenant, that this is the paper, this is your name, this is my name, go and present there. Somewhere they themselves present, and somewhere their friends send the paper, put your name and present it in that seminar. So sometimes it happens that the same person is presenting seminar in different places at the same time. And things are there. This kind of talent, I feel, is called talent Ras Leela. Another talent I'm going to share with you that you might have seen, I have seen, I have faced, I have. So this is a commentary of what we have experienced, and a kind of just for some interesting way of presentation. Another talent is Guru Nam Kevalam. So once a person or a scholar write an abstract, first name is Guruji. Paper is totally student's work. Guruji has guided, no doubt. Might have guided, might not have guided. But expectation is name should be there. And just to oblige the supervisor, a scholar writes first Guruji name, because Guru Nam Kevalam is the only way out of to get salvation. कृपा पाने के लिए तो गुरु नाम केवलम का रास्ता जो हम लोगों का विशेष टैलेंट है, हम लोग इसका ऐसा देखा है, पाया है, फेस किया है, तो उस पर एक है। एक और सिचुएशन जो मैंने देखा है, दैट इज द टैलेंट ऑफ मिल्चिंग कामधेनु, ऑपरेशन कामधेनु। मीन्स till the scholar gets degree awarded, research scholar is Kamdhenu for the institution. Use it maximum, get it published in terms of publication or any other way. Kamdhenu, you have Kamdhenu if you have a scholar. Just enjoy. So Kamdhenu, no, every हर इच्छा पूरी हो जाती थी क्योंकि वो उपलब्ध था। और सबसे बड़ा जो आजकल बीच में पड़ गया था, आजकल फिर रोक लगी है, दैट इज टैलेंट पारस मनी। That was a time when third class C grade journals, you just sent your paper without proper proofreading, without proper uh, editing of that. And this is my personal experience, I am telling you. That next morning you will find, today at 4 you have sent one, next morning or afternoon you will find your paper has been accepted, going to publish in the ensuing issue. You have to pay so much of amount as publication charge. Yes, publication charge is taken by top quality journals also. But that was the practice once. If you have money, you can throw out money, even unedited paper with all its mistake, spelling and all kind of mistake, without any change, same mistake, it will be published. They don't even pay attention that at least some editing should be done, some proofreading should be done. You pay money and next month there will be a publication. We all are happy. I have one publication, I have one publication. This is called talent पारस मनी. क्योंकि पारस मनी के साथ जैसे लोहा जुड़ता है वो सोना हो जाता था. तो पैसे के साथ जुड़ के जैसे ही पेपर कहीं पहुंचता था वो गोल्ड लाइक होके it was published. So these are some of the, it is based on my one of the publication. In one of the seminar I have presented this and it was published in the volume also, despite it is teasing for many of the person, but the person who edited this book, I always respect that fellow because this was applicable to that fellow also. He was my colleague and he was so a nice person, enjoying, never take any tension, that many of the things comment I have put here as talent, some of that applies to him also. Still he was editor and he published this paper in toto, in the same, without any cut. So I respect his greatness. So this is the thing I feel that this part you might have enjoyed and think over this, and that's all. And it's time to say that thanks a lot to all the friends, those who listened my presentation, whether it remained useful or clarifying on some issues, have cleared up some doubts, and have given you some criteria that you will apply in your life whenever you face an ethical situation. I think some criteria and some examples, especially in the last part what I have presented, will be able to help you in making decision, and nothing big one, simply what is desirable and undesirable in this situation. It may help you. So व्यंग है, कुछ जगहों पर व्यंग, लास्ट पार्ट में मैंने कुछ व्यंग किया है, ये हम सब पर लागू होता है और किसी एक के लिए नहीं है, किसी एक व्यक्ति पर एक कमेंट नहीं है, ना किसी एक सिचुएशन के लिए, हम सब पर लागू होता है, हम सब के भीतर ये चीजें हैं. बस इससे हमारे मन में एक जागृति है और हम we are able to decide whenever we face any ethical situation in our academic life or academic writing. These things will help you to make a right choice. Means desirability and undesirability can be differentiated. And if my presentation help you in coming times, I would be the happiest person that my little contribution had changed the perception and the way people look at the writing, publication, and purpose of publication. It would be a great service to the world of ethical consideration and world of academic pursuit. This will be a little contribution to that, and in that way I will be very happy and satisfied person in that sense. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and information. So if any participant has any query, they may ask one by one. And please make your question precise and clear.
Yes.
Any participant has any query?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. I'm Shamli Dubey. Such a very wonderful session on the ethical part of the research. Sir, my question is, if I'm writing a paper or an article, if I'm reviewing the literature of various authors, and can I write that particular literature in my own words and taking the reference or citation of that particular one? Does it come under the plagiarized content?
No, that is for academic purpose. It is allowed. Only thing
Okay.
that whenever you use that para you are referring to should not be only referring is not sufficient. You have to
Okay.
see the para, understand the para, and gist of that para should be written in your own language. And you
Okay.
cannot say now it is my opinion. No, the whole opinion is based on that para. Then you
Okay.
have to
So I
reference.
should mention the name of that person, but it should
Yes,
be written in my own words.
yeah. Pure
Okay, sir.
own words and after gist of that.
Okay,
Then you
just stop that.
and still you are referring. Then you are actually doing the right thing. That is.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other participant?
Hello,
Yes.
sir. I am Swapan Banerjee from West Bengal.
Yes. Yes.
First of all, I do acknowledge this fantastic session. I have learned so many new things and valuable knowledge. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have one simple doubt. For example, while I'm working on introduction part, right?
Yes.
While I'm writing a paper or a book chapter, for during that content, I am finding that some general images or structures. For example, I'm working on blueberry for a Springer book chapter. Now I'm finding that the blueberries various parts of fruits and leaves are should be there in my book chapter, but that this parts as an image form is available in Google,
Yes.
which is given in Pinterest or in some average general sources. But that kind of general image is important to pick up and cite or whatever to connect in my content. So
Yes, yes.
what you suggest?
Here it is not. Yes, this is not a big problem. Two things I will clarify here. That once some image is on the Google, okay, so either it is shared by the person who is owner of that image, number one, and number two, Google has actually purchased that right. Without proper permission, Google has no right to acquire any image. So Google takes care of that. So permission is taken by Google. So if you have on the Google itself, if the source is given, then you mention that source.
Okay, that simple is
If there is no, if there is no such information, then only you can acknowledge that I adopted this image from Google on this date at this time. Just
the
to
accessed on this bit, right?
yes, yes.
But
Access it.
I should write it as a source just below that image
Yes,
or
below
picture.
that, below that.
I should write it on below that image, or I should write it in the reference part.
Both part. In
Okay,
the
I should write as a reference source.
below the image in the short form, at the end in detail form.
Okay, at the end in a complete citation and
Yes.
as a source, I should mention just
Partial
below.
citation, yes.
Correct. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. That is the general question is.
Okay. Any other query? Okay, I think all the
Hello.
queries has been solved.
Yes.
Hello,
So,
sir. This is Amarjeet, sir. Sir,
Yes.
I want to ask one question, sir. I am going to present my thesis, and sir, problem is that I am using the data from census, and when we present this paper on test, sir, it get some plagiarism content on it, sir. What is the sir?
Oh,
what
you
is-
have sent it for plagiarism test, and
I want-
it was reported as copying from some sources, isn't it?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So why it happened? Do you know? Very simple. It can be easily resolved. What happened that when you have taken a table, you might have just copied that table.
Yes, sir.
Despite it is in the bottom, it might be written that census so and so year, years.
Yes.
So it is okay. But because it is available on electronic platform at some other websites
Yes.
or
Yes,
census
sir.
website, so because it is available on electronic side, plagiarism test will catch that one, that it is similarity, because plagiarism is similarity test. So
Okay, sir.
it will test that yes, it is from somewhere matching. That's why it is showing so. You have to do one thing. If the whole table you have to adapt as it is, then there is no problem. You just withdraw the table,
Okay.
then send it for plagiarism test. And once it is done, you put it there. Because once someone claim it, below that source is given. So no one will claim you that you have not mentioned the source. But once you keep that table in the plagiarism data you have sent for plagiarism test, it will
Yes, sir.
match, it will report like that. So you just withdraw that table, you withdraw references, you withdraw table, then you go for a plagiarism test, because references also given in the same style and the same citation may be given by other scholars in other publications. So it will come as a plagiarism. So mostly this is my technique. I can suggest references and tables you never send for plagiarism test.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Then
much.
it will be lower, and but after adopting it in the final form,
Then I
source,
put on it, sir.
whole reference, complete reference would be there. And try most of the time that unnecessary detail of tables should be changed, and it should be avoided, and you cut it short, or you make and reformulate the data. Data can be presented in some different way. That will also save you from plagiarism.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello,
Good
sir.
afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes. Tell
My
your
name is Bhavna Best. Sir, I want to ask, first of all, sir, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation.
tell about the talent part.
Hello.
Tell about something about talent part that I have shown you. What kind of talent being utilized nowadays?
So talent, sir, you have told that people nowadays they are presenting paper in
My
each and
question
every
is,
kind of.
have you found it interesting?
Yes, sir. Of course, I found it interesting. That was a very good thing, and I really liked the that octopus part that which you have told that nowadays people they are interested in presenting paper in every field
Yes.
rather than concentrating on their own field. So that is a good thing I learned today. And sir, my question basically is. Whenever the research is conducted on the basis of secondary data, sir, so
Yes.
there are chances of plagiarism. So how can we avoid such things?
Oh, I have just answered the same question before.
Yes,
Whenever you use data, you just don't copy the whole table or whole data set. You only use data which is required for your work. Number
So,
one.
sir, is it possible that we just change the figures or something like that can be done?
No. What is factual data? You cannot
Okay.
avoid it. Fact you have to mention. You use
Of course,
the
sir.
table. You use
Okay.
the table. You draw the table and use that table's information. Put it in your own table, which is required. Which is not required. Avoid it. Number one. What people usually do, they copy the whole table and paste it. So it will come under plagiarism. When you will send it for plagiarism test, it will mention it. Why? Because the same data is available on some website or the
Correct.
original source, primary source available. So it will match. So it will be plagiarism. It will be better. Don't give table for plagiarism test. You prepare it separately, and when plagiarism test is done, then you put it in your thesis.
And I will have answer at the same time. I will have to mention the source also.
But once it is there, after putting it in your paper, you just mention the source in detail, number
Okay,
one,
sir.
and try to reformulate your table as per your requirement. Don't tempt it to adopt because it is easier to copy and paste. That's why plagiarism is reported. Once you don't send it for plagiarism test, once you use it, you put it there, and if better that give all the just a source mentioning, you also use your own style of source mentioning, and data you use which is required for you, or you can reformulate the design of your table, but mention, because you are using the resource from where the data you cannot create. So you adopt data, refer it in full, but reformulate it and use only requisite number of data set. Unnecessary data you avoid, and don't send it for plagiarism test. It will match. If you have reformulated it, you can send, no problem.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your words. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Yes, sir. This is Pooja Pava this side.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
I'm on a very preliminary stage of research. I'm very new to it, and I have not contributed much in this field. But this workshop has given me a lot of things to learn. So
Yes.
there is just one confusion in my mind, sir. I was trying to write a paper on a topic. It was kind of a very new topic, and not a lot of literature was available on electronic media.
Yes.
But somehow I wanted to give it a try by writing a paper and then moving on to a research. Sir, I
Yes.
found that a lot of like there were 3 to 4 papers present already on that topic, but they were literally similar in many kinds. The data were almost same, and the gist was also very similar. There was nothing new to it. And so I found that, so since there is no research already available on it, so maybe my paper as well will also have the more or less same content.
Yeah.
So if I do the same thing, will it be considered a fraudulent activity?
I am very happy and impressed that you are very genuinely and very honestly accepting the reality that you are new one, just trying to enter into this field, and you are finding most of the papers similar kind of objectives or data. They are just churning here and there and making the paper, and you are not very satisfied with such kind of contribution. Similar thing I tell, that this is the valuation of a kind of ingenuity. So why not we always bring things which is some utility, and don't, path breaking research is not in your hand. Path breaking research are done by accident, but unless you do keep researching, you will not attain that stage. So better, if you feel so, only ask what is a genuine question here. If these questions are answered, what is the next answer, or what is not yet questioned? So you just find out some research question. Research means research question. I only define research. Any research has a great value if you have paid sufficient time to find out a genuine question, what you want to know exactly, but not yet been known or has not yet been tried or unknown for many of the people. So just genuine. Start a very simple question and very genuine question, then collect data, then analyze the data, match it with your objective, and see what is the outcome. Just report it back. Simplicity and honesty makes a research very great. So if you are in the starting stage, if you keep this principle in your mind that I will work on genuine questions, I will work with some primary data and correct data, and I will use the latest analytical tools, and whatever outcome will come, I will honestly report it to the audience. You will become one day a great researcher.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And sir, I just want to congratulate you, and I just want to wish that I have never seen a teacher like you who's such a brave, giving such brave and sarcastic examples. You have explained the reality, sir. The last portion of your whole session was excellent. Excellent, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir,
Yes.
I have a very basic question, sir.
Your name, please?
My name is Sonam.
Okay.
सर क्या हमें पेपर में प्लेजरिज्म चेक करना चाहिए या नहीं सर?
प्लेजरिज्म टेस्ट तो करना ही चाहिए, और अगर क्वालिटी का जर्नल है और क्वालिटी जर्नल में ही आप पब्लिश करने की कोशिश कीजिए, क्योंकि जो समय आ रहा है उसमें अब कुछ स्टैंडर्ड जर्नल्स हैं, उन्हीं के पब्लिकेशन को क्रेडिट मिलेगा, लेकिन सफिशिएंट नंबर में अच्छे जर्नल्स उपलब्ध है, ये भी मैं बता दे रहा हूँ। कभी भी जल्दी पब्लिकेशन करने में और ज्यादा पब्लिकेशन करने में आप पुअर जर्नल चॉइस मत कीजिए, नंबर 1। और बहुत ही ईमानदारी से अपना जो रिसर्च का मेथोडोलॉजी सीखा है उसको अप्लाई कीजिए, ये एक काम है। हाँ, क्वेश्चन पूछिए।
Sir, next question is, sir, क्या, sir, any कोई reliable software, sir?
Huh?
Any
Oh,
reliable
reliable
software?
software. But it is not given to the students. Actually, your research means your teacher or institutional, some universities, in university level also facilities are there, or every professors and teachers of universities are, if your university is registered with Urkund or many other sources are there, they do this plagiarism test. So Urkund is one of that. So if you are from Magadha University, or which university you belongs to?
Sir, Magadha University, sir.
So Magadha University most probably may have some, your teachers have some Urkund passwords. They have. So you have to submit your paper to your teacher or your supervisor, and he will send it to the Urkund for plagiarism test, and it will come. And plagiarism test one should definitely go, because without that, in future you will be in trouble.
Okay,
If
sir.
some problem arises, then you will be answerable. Your guide will be answerable, and without any fault, there will be trouble for both of you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, namaskar, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, my name is Mohammad Turab Sahil from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi.
Okay.
And
Okay.
actually, I'm working on my thesis, India's trade relationship with SAARC countries, and it is based on secondary data. And currently, I'm writing chapter number 2, literature review, and I'm facing some challenges regarding, I'm taking my secondary data from different sources like WTO and RBI.
Okay. Okay.
तो मुझे सर प्लैगियरिज्म की प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, मतलब हाउ शुड आई
Have you actually tested? Have you sent it for testing?
या आई हैव टेकन
No problem. If you have heard the previous answers, I have already answered it. Table and references, this problem always arises, and this is a common mistake made by the students, research scholar nowadays. What they do, they reference and this table they send for plagiarism test. It will definitely be plagiarized, reported as plagiarized. Why? Because table is mostly used by many person in many publications. It is available in electronic form on the website of the primary source of that data. So once anything available on electronic site anywhere in the world, it will be matched and it will be reported as plagiarized. Actually, it is not plagiarism. If you use a table and mention below it that this is the source of this table, and you have analyzed the table in your own words, there is no plagiarism. So don't send reference section and table section for plagiarism test. Problem will be over. But once after that, once you put your table and references in the table in the work, you just mention detailed reference of that. And if it is better, unnecessary data, don't put it there. Only useful data you put in your own table in your own way. And if you redesign your table, then problem will be over, and there is no plagiarism proof. No one will complain that after evaluation that it is plagiarized, because you have mentioned just below it that source of this table was this. Because you have sent it for plagiarism test, it was reported like that. This is a common mistake we all are making.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Don't send it to that.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for solving all the queries.
Yes.
So now I request Dr. Vinita ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Applied Economics and Commerce, Magadha University, to deliver vote of thanks.
Thank you, Diksha. Good evening,
Welcome,
sir.
ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening, all the participants here and our super active members of organizing team. So, if we overlook some network issues that occur during classes, we have reached comfortably at the end of the second session of the second last day of our 7 days workshop. And I, Vinita Kumari, on the behalf of PG Department of Commerce and Indian Accounting Association Patna branch, would like to give my hearty thanks to Dr. Brijesh Kumar sir. Thank you so much, sir, for today's lecture that you delivered on the topic of ethics in academic writing. You told about the importance of ethical consideration. So today's lecture was very much interesting and familiar because we have grown up with these ethics, motivations, and etiquettes in our family. And sir, have beautifully connected those ethical consideration with academic activities, and we must follow during our research work. You warned us that future progress is in danger if we are crushing out our motivation for academic activities. Yes, sir. Future depends upon good quality of research, and a good quality of research needs that our motivation should not be crushed. Otherwise, it will go in crisis. Thank you, sir, for your great words today, and we assure you that we would follow your words while writing a paper or article or research thesis about the fairness of writing. Our writing should not violate the rights of human consumers, property, justice, and other important things. Thank you so much, sir. It was very, very, very inspiring, motivational lecture today. And thank you so much, our participants who are always with us and motivating us with their messages. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so much, the members of organizing team, without whom it was all impossible. Thank you, Diksha, for your wonderful coordination today. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So that's all for today. So I'm wrapping up this session. The participants can exit now.